Welcome to Spicy Toast Gaming and our updated Veigar guide for Path of Champions. If you enjoy the video, like and subscribe, and let's get into it. First, we're going to start off with a brief overview of the champion, discussing their general playstyle so you have a better understanding of the champion and if you want to invest your time and resources into them. First, we have Darkness, the main mechanic of Veigar and his deck. Darkness is a removal spell that you're working on improving throughout your game, and eventually using it to destroy the enemy nexus. Next up, we have Consistent Removal. The deck generates one non-fleeting removal spell every round, so you consistently have options to remove enemy targets. Up next, we have Defensive. It takes time to power up your Darkness spell. While you're working on that, you'll often tend to have a more defensive playstyle. Next, we have Ramp. Your deck starts off weaker and gets more powerful as the game goes on. Last up, we have Champ Reliant. Veigar is your win condition. If you don't draw him or don't protect him, you will often lose the game. Alright, that's it for the overview. Let's hop in game to better explain some of the points we touched on here. Alright, in game now you see we have Veigar at level 30 with 3 stars. So Veigar is a 4-cost champion with 1 attack and 4 health. You're generally not going to be attacking with him. You normally just want him to be sitting on your board. So when I'm summoned, create a Darkness in hand if you don't have one. Round start, grant your Darkness everywhere 1 extra damage. So you want him sitting on your board as early as possible because every single round start he's just increasing the damage of that Darkness, which is very nice. Now his level up is you've dealt 12 or more damage with Darkness. Once he levels up, he goes to a 2/5, still has the same effect of when I'm summoned or round start, create a Darkness in hand if you don't have one. Also round start, grant your Darkness everywhere 1 extra damage, but the big thing now is when you play Darkness, it can target anything, meaning it can target the enemy nexus. So normally you're powering up your Darkness, you have your Veigar on the board, helping that power up. Once he levels up, you can then start targeting the enemy nexus, and you destroy it with your Darkness. Now his champion spell is this Event Horizon, so 5 cost, stun an enemy and stun all enemies with 2 or less power. This can be a great spell to use, and can also really help you with some Frostbite synergy, or reducing down enemies' power through different means, because this can help you stun the entire enemy board. Really great card. And then here you see the Darkness, so this is the spell that the entire deck is built around. By default, it's a 3-cost slow spell with deal 2 to an enemy, but we're going to be trying to ramp up this damage, reduce down its cost, and also increasing its speed. Taking a look at the star powers now. So your rank 1 star power is round start, create a Darkness in hand, or if you have one, reduce its cost down by 1. Now the rank 2 version of that you see here, round start, create a Darkness in hand, it costs 0. Now this isn't a fleeting Darkness, so this is just going to sit in your hand until you play it. So you can stack up several of these Darkness and then play them all at once for a massive amount of damage. Your 2-star plus 1 starting mana, your Darkness accelerates to burst. So that means you can play this immediately, the enemy can't do anything to stop it, it'll just immediately go off. And then if you have multiple Darkness, you can just play them all back to back, and there's nothing the enemy can do because they're all burst. This is very helpful, great synergy between these 2 powers, and the entire deck just all working towards that one goal of improving Darkness. Alright, next up we're going to take a look at the starting deck, but before we do, we're just going to touch on some of the level ups that the starting deck doesn't show. There's some issue with the starting deck UI where it can only show 1 upgrade and some of the cards have several. So here you see the Wizened Wizard, this 3-cost, 3/2, round start, refill 1 spell mana. This has the Giant's Belt on it, you're not able to see that in the starting deck. So when we're talking about that in the starting deck, just remember it also has a Giant's Belt. And then here for the Stilted Robemaker, it gets a Philosopher's Stone. Again, this does not show in the starting deck. So taking a look at that starting deck now, we have as a 1-cost Otterpuss with that Studded Leather, so it's a 2/2 with a Attune, and it creates a Prank. Now this Prank does cost 1 mana, but because of that Attune, you'll always have the mana to play it, and you prank 2 cards in the enemy deck, either making them cost more, reduce down their power, make it so they can't block, things like that. Pretty solid 1-drop. Next up we have the Dark Bulb Acolyte, so 2-cost, augment. When I'm summoned, create a Darkness in hand if you don't have one, and has those speed wraps and it is a 2/2. Now that augment is very important. As you see here, when you play a created card, grant me 1 power. Now all these darkness, you are creating them, you're creating a new one every single round. So this unit, when you're playing your darkness, is going to be scaling up and can actually get quite powerful. So this is quite a good card and great for generating extra darkness. Now the darkness it generates is going to be at the default cost of 3, whereas the darkness you're generating every round from your star powers, if you're at 3 stars, is going to be 0. So just be aware of that. Next up, we have the Pokey Stick with that 2 extra damage. So 2 cost fast, deal 3 to anything with that Charging Sigil and draw 1. Nice to have a little bit of extra removal as well as some additional draw. Next up, we have the Twisted Catalyzer. So another 2 cost, 4/3 with that studded leather. Strike, grant your darkness everywhere 1 extra damage. This is a really great card. You want to prioritize upgrades for this card if possible and prioritize playing them, because outside of Veigar sitting on the board, buffing up your darkness every round start, this is the only other way to increase your darkness damage. So really important card right here. You want this card to get as many strikes as possible. Next up, we have the Stilted Robe Maker, so it has that ancient coin to go to a 3 cost, and remember, from the champion level ups, this also has draw 1, but as you can see, the UI can't show 2 upgrades. So when I'm summoned, reduce the cost of your darkness everywhere by 1. So this can be quite a helpful card, because again, all the darkness you're generating outside of your star powers are still going to be that 3 cost, so making them cost a bit less can be quite helpful. Next up, we have Stress Defense with Poro Snack, so a 3 cost burst, set a unit stats to 1/6 this round. This is an absolutely amazing card, a lot of different ways you can use this, either buffing up your own units' health to keep them alive, or using this on an enemy to reduce their power so they can't hit as hard, or later when you're going against some very tough opponents like Aurelion Sol where they have like 20 health, you can use this on them to reduce their health down and make them easier to kill. Very versatile card. You'll find many different ways to use this. Next up, we have the Wizened Wizard, and remember this also has a giant spell, so it's actually a 3/4. So 3 cost with that Crystal Carrier, round start refill 1 spell mana, and then with that Crystal Carrier get an extra mana gem this round. Great card just for giving you tons of extra mana. And then we have the Tenor of Terror with that Phage, so a 4 cost 3/5 with impact. When I'm summoned, if you've played a created card or killed a unit with a spell this game, which you'll normally be able to do before that 4 cost, summon a Base of Burden. So you see that right here, 3/1 with impact. Great card for generating some strong blockers or adding some more offensive pressure. Doesn't really have too much to do with darkness, but can help you out. And then we have Veigar for that 4 cost. So as you can see, most of your deck is pretty cheap. The most expensive card you have is a 4 cost. Nice that even though you are a deck that normally is going to need to go into the later game, you do have plenty of good cards to play early, and then as the match goes on, you'll be able to play more and more of your cheaper cards, which can be quite nice. Also, as you can see, most of your cards all are helping you scale up your darkness, either reducing their cost or increasing their power, or just generating more of them. It's really a great deck that is very singularly focused. Taking a look at relics now. Some relics I recommend. The Scourge's Stash, Plunder, I cost 2 less. Normally you can get this Plunder effect off fairly easily with Veigar because you can normally use your darkness to kill any blockers, attack with a unit, get that Nexus damage, and play Veigar a round or 2 early. Also important to get him on the board as soon as you can so we can start scaling up your darkness. Next we have the Chemtech Duplicator. When you play a spell, if you have 6 or more mana gems, copy it with the same targets. This is absolutely great for Veigar. Normally around that 6 mana gem is when you're wanting to finish the game, so getting all of your darkness spells to go off twice, really helpful. Will normally be the final push you need to either level up Veigar and destroy the enemy Nexus. Then we have Luden's Tempest. All of your spells and skills deal 1 extra damage. Helpful for, again, leveling up Veigar and destroying the enemy Nexus. Some common relics to go with. The Starchild Staff, Game Start Heal your Nexus 5. That can be helpful if you're taking a little bit too much Nexus damage. Chameleon's Necklace and Game Start create 2 copies of me in your deck. Since Veigar is your win condition, gain more copies of him. Quite helpful. Lost Chapter, when I'm summoned, refill your spell mana. This can be quite helpful if you don't have Veigar at 3 stars, so you're not making those free darkness every round. This can help give you the mana to play some darkness right away. Then Banshee's Veil, great option just for giving Veigar a little bit extra protection. For some other rare relics that might not be a bad choice, we have the Grand General's Counterplan. Round start, create a fleeting copy of me in hand. So that's going to be this stun right here. This is a pretty expensive card, but it can help you delay the game until you're able to come away with your win. Guardian Angel, start adventures with 1+ revive, and last breath, if it's the first time you've been slaying this game, revive me with 1 health. Great way to both get more revive, so if you end up losing a match, you still have another chance, but then also protecting Veigar so that if he dies, he'll get summoned again. Can be decent protection. And then Archangel Staff, round start, refill your spell mana. Again, this is normally better if you don't have Veigar at the 3 stars yet, because then you won't have all of those free darkness every single round. So this can be quite helpful and normally something you will want to pick up and use if your Veigar isn't quite at those 3 stars. Alright, that's it for the in-game portion. Let's go look at powers and support champions. Taking a look at powers now. Up first, we have some great powers to help your early game. So officer backup, game start, summon a Sting Officer. That Sting Officer is an elusive 2/1 unit. Great for putting some pressure on the enemy early, as well as getting your plunder effect off if you're wanting to run with Scourge's Stash. Gearing up, game start, summon 2 armed gearheads. Now these are units that start off with 1 power and 1 health, but they have quick attack and augment. Augment being important because that's when you play a created card, increase their power by 1. You're going to be using a lot of created cards, so these cards are going to scale up very quickly. So this can be a very aggressive option for putting the pressure on the enemy early, but normally you're not going to want to block with them as they will die right away. Then we have Vanguard Lookout, game start, summon 2 Vanguard Lookouts. So these are units that I believe have the stat line of 2/4, so 2 power and 4 health. These are much better for blocking and aren't really going to put on much pressure early. So while these 3 powers do fulfill some similar roles, they do actually play out quite differently. They all can work out quite well for you, and they're normally worth grabbing if you see one of them, but they will each change your playstyle in different ways. Next up here, we have some defensive powers. So first we have Hold Them Off. Round start, Frostbite the strongest enemy this round. While this is a strong power, it does have decent synergy with your champion spell, where you stun a unit and then all units with 2 or less power. So you could stun a separate unit, and this unit that got frostbitten would also be stunned. Next up, we have Hold It, round start, stun the strongest enemy. Very simple, but effective, great defensive power. Then we have Enfeebling Strike. When you damage an enemy, reduce its power by the damage dealt. This is great for Veigar as you have so many removal spells. So even if they don't succeed in removing the target, they can be used just to reduce the unit's power down. Again, also having synergy with your champion spell of being able to stun all units with 2 or less power. Really great spell, and normally the best defensive spell in the game, at least in my opinion. Next up, we have spells-based powers. Now, these are going to be much more important before you have Veigar at 3 stars. Afterwards, they can still be helpful, but normally your darkness that you're playing is free, so it loses some value. So first up, we have Wild Inspiration. Your created cards cost 1 less. Now, you're creating a lot of different darkness cards throughout the game, so reducing down all of those costs by 1 is quite helpful. Next up, we have Spellslinger. Your spells cost 1 less. Again, very general power, just reducing down all of your spells by 1. In this situation, it's just a better version of Wild Inspiration. And next up, we have Sorcery, round start, refill your spell mana. Very straightforward, but can be quite helpful for you. You have a lot of spells that you're playing every single round. Definitely pick up any of these if you see them, especially if you don't have Veigar at 3 stars. Alright, on to support champions. Now, I will say Veigar is one that you don't normally care about your support champion as much, since you're just wanting to focus on Veigar and all of his darkness-themed cards. So support champions are not as important as many other champions. Also, I will say, don't go for Senna. She is another darkness-themed champion. However, she's actually normally nerfing your deck because she has an effect that makes your darkness goes to fast speed, which is supposed to be buffing your deck, but since you're able to get your darkness to go to burst speed, it's actually reducing the speed of your cards, and it's actually hurting you. So don't get Senna, even though she is a darkness-themed deck. And normally with Veigar, the support champions don't matter that much anyways. You're not going to be focusing on them in most situations. That being said, I do have some picks that you might want to consider. So first up, we have created cards. You're using a lot of created cards, so any other champions that also synergize with that can help you out. And then defensive. You already have a defensive playstyle, so any other defensive champions could help you out with staying alive till you ramp up successfully. So for created cards, you might want to look at Victor. His level up is, I believe, you play 7 created cards, something around there. So you're able to level him up pretty quickly, and so you have some synergy there. Then for defensive, Yasuo is a great option. You already have some stuns in your deck, and so he can work out well for a defensive champion. Alright, that's it for support champions as well as this updated guide. I hope it helped you out. If it did, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a great day.